How's it going, everybody? It is Jarrett Huff here from Basketball Tip Off, in part with J Cobra Gaming, and I'm here to bring some news to you. Today, NBA 2K just released the blog for the MyGM and MyLEAGUE, and as many of you know, if you follow my channel, I love MyGM, and especially I love MyLEAGUE, because I'm a big-time basketball geek, so I think it's fun to see if I throw the 91 Bulls into today's NBA, how would they compete against the Warriors in the finals and the rest of the NBA and stuff like that? Well, 2K has made big steps in MyLEAGUE this year when you think how much larger could they go and how much bigger could they go, because every single year they do something new and exciting. It's awesome. And I'm here to share those changes with you in MyGM and MyLEAGUE. Here they come. Now, the first big change 2K brought to the game was changing MyLEAGUE Online. Now it's completely different. There's actual contracts now and live off seasons, which is awesome. There's no more the keep players and stuff like that for your teams. Another awesome feature is there's deadlines now. You can set how long players have to finish parts of the off season, how long players have until the draft starts and stuff like that. Some really cool stuff. Every single feature that is in MyLEAGUE, the offline MyLEAGUE, is now available in MyLEAGUE Online, which is awesome. The only thing that didn't make it over was the player training, but I don't think anyone's going to cry over that. League admins have full control over the timers, how long they last, if he wants to pause them, if he wants to stop them, whatever the league admin wants to do, they can do it. There's also now a league members panel where anyone can view the online status of the members, where they are in conjunction with the season and how far they've gone so far. There's a ready up indicator for when players want to move on with the next part of the season if everyone finishes before the timer. Now this next part has got me super excited. It's the advancement of the tuning sliders for the game. Now what that means is you'll have more control over how players improve, how trades work, how contracts work, and stuff like that. People have been complaining about how players will ask for too much and they won't sign for anything below that, or how some players will ask for too little, how some players are too easy to trade, some players decline too quickly or rise too quickly. All that's now under your control. You can set how important a certain player or a certain type of player is to rebuilding teams, selling teams, buying teams, and contending teams, which that's awesome because every player is different in value to a different team. Say to a team that is competing, they're probably more likely to pick up veteran players like a Joe Johnson. A team that's completely rebuilding, it wouldn't make sense for a rebuilding team to pick up all these old veterans. And that's what's cool. You can set how player age is a factor, past injuries, anything you can imagine is thrown into that. Same goes with contracts. You could say a player of this type isn't really worth this kind of contract. Say there's been some issues in the past where say you do one of the custom draft classes, and let's say for whatever reason, let's say Trae Young was a bottom 30 pick. I'm really lost for players at the moment. And let's say Trae Young's option got declined by the team. The team didn't want to pick him up for whatever reason after the draft. And Trae Young is a player that was really only worthy of getting a league minimum contract. But then he's well, I got dropped by my team. I want $5 million for 4 years from whatever team wants to sign me. You're I'm not paying $5 million for Trae Young who hasn't played a minute in the NBA. That can now change with this awesome thing called Player Fame. Player Fame is another slider that now takes into consideration what players have done in the past, how big is their name and stuff like that. So you could set it to where guys like LeBron will get some big money, and then say players like Derrick Rose that have fallen behind still might get looks from teams to where hey, it's Derrick Rose, he's a former MVP, let's take a shot on him. Whereas they look at a rookie and they're dude, you haven't played one game in the NBA. We're not going to give you $5 million per year, just even though you're a 72 overall in the game. We're not giving you $5 million. Sorry. And I really like that because that's going to bring a lot more realism to the game. With trade sliders, teams will start to look at like style and importance of like what kind of team they're trying to build when they're trying to trade for players, which is really cool. So you'll see like the CPU teams start trading for like players that fit their like 7 seconds offense or their triangle offense, whatever system they're running. You can also set the value for how important draft picks are and like their value. Because now 2K had this awesome feature where you can trade draft picks like 5 years out. I mean, that helps with making trades, makes the game more realistic, because when Boston and the Nets did that trade, their picks were affected all the way until 2018, 5 years in advance. The Nets mortgaged their entire future. Now, the progression sliders are a really cool feature. You can manage and micromanage every single attribute, how fast attributes decline when they reach their peak, how fast they increase during a player's development, and stuff like that. And I think that is awesome because I see some players advance way too quickly to where we have like 30 or 40, 80 overalls, or like 85 and higher in the league at some point. So when half the league's like an 80 something, it makes contracts difficult, and at the same time it's unrealistic. Like, this league's too stacked. That's dumb. Also, players decline way too quickly. Some players have aged gracefully in years past, like say a Michael Jordan. Let's ignore the Washington years, even though he played pretty well for a 40-year-old. By the time he was 35, he was still averaging 28 points per game, and in 2K they weren't giving him a 98 in the final year of his Chicago Bulls career. So Jordan really never declined. And I'm sure some players will be like that, like a LeBron James. I don't think he'll really decline, but in 2K years past, you'll end up LeBron being like an 88 at the end of his career, when in reality, LeBron could be like a Michael Jordan, a 98 overall at the end of his career, as he's going into year 16 and he's rated a 98 overall. Now, creative player has me really intrigued. Last year, we were blown back by how much creative player regressed. Now, the only tip in 2K18's creative player feathers cap I will give it is the players looked more like real people and not kind of cheesy like how the creative players did in 2K15, 16, and 17. On the downside, however, is that, well, it was impossible to make like players like look how you wanted them to. As you guys know, I'm a big-time creative player guy, where I create guys like Charles Barkley and Moses Malone and stuff like that. But it was so hard to do that this year because I couldn't even change the player's skin tone. And in the beginning, when the game first came out, I couldn't even change the eye color. Now, 2K did give us some features back, but like we were so limited on stuff like mustaches and beards. I couldn't have a mustache and a beard together at the same time. Now a lot of that's changed. We'll have a lot more customization over the face. We're still going to use sliders, and it won't be like that square panel that you see from like 2K17. But at the same time, we'll have full control over stuff like ear rotation. You could change the mouth in like so many ways, as you can see from the screenshot I'm putting up there. You got stuff like the upper lip thickness, mouth width, upper lip prominence, upper lip bent position or dent position, lower lip thickness, and lower lip prominence. That's awesome that we're getting that much from the game. We can now fully customize the skin color. They're bringing us back like pock marks, discolorations, blemishes, freckles, like all of that's coming back into the game, as most of that was missing from last year. And now 2K is telling us that we supposedly have 50 different colors of hair, along with new styles of hair. You could customize the hair. You could shave in a Jumpman logo on the side of the head or something like that. Certain styles of hair, you can affect the hair length, which I think is awesome because we've been extremely limited with hairstyles really ever since 2K's been around. So this is a great change for all cap users, and I'm super excited to see to a full extent of what options we have. And just like in years past, you could create a player in the MyLEAGUE menu. Now the coolest part of the create a player feature is player DNA. Now, whether it's in custom rosters or draft classes, you can set up creative players to have either the likeness or the attributes. I'm assuming it's like tendencies, badges, anything, hot zones of a specific player. Like, let's say I'm making a creative player, Charles Barkley, and for whatever reason, I want him to have like all of LaMarcus Aldridge's attributes. I create Charles Barkley's face and stuff like that. Boom. I give him all of LaMarcus Aldridge's ratings, tendencies, and stuff like that. And as a guy that makes creative players, tendencies are a pain in the butt. So now I can take like Nate Robinson, because maybe he's not featured in this upcoming version of 2K19 as he wasn't in 2K18. Now I could say, you know what, Nate Robinson plays a little kind of explosive like the old Derrick Rose of days past. So then I give him like 2011 Derrick Rose's tendencies and everything like that. So then he'll play more like Derrick Rose. Now Nate Robinson obviously doesn't play exactly like Derrick Rose. It's just a comparison off the fly. Now MyGM last season experimented with having a story. Now the story was interesting, but after you're done with the story and you want to play another MyGM, you had to go through the same story again. Many of us thought like, I really don't want to watch the story again. It feels like it was a one-time deal. Well, 2K heard us and they're changing it. There will be another story this year. It's called The Saga Continues, and it's going to be loosely based off a continuation of last year's story, where this time you're a GM of a brand new expansion franchise with this owner from Texas, and you'll be going up against the Sandersons, including the guy that tried to take your job. I believe his name's like Andrew Sanderson, something like that. And I believe his dad's the owner of the new team. We'll see how it all works out. But you guys will both be GMs of the expansion franchises coming to the NBA, where you'll have full customization over the team and stuff like that. On the flip side, Classic MyGM is back as it was from 2K14 to 2K17, where you have no story mode, and actually there's more like customization. It's a little closer to MyLEAGUE. You'll have control over some sliders. You'll have the ability to do an expansion franchise right off the bat. You'll be able to customize the league a little bit, and I'm assuming you can import custom rosters into it. I believe that is a feature that is returning to the game. The NBA draft is getting a bit of a change. It's going to be more immersive and more like, not so much changes to the function of it, but the aesthetics. Like, there'll be sports analysts giving takes on why a team may have possibly drafted this player. An example, the Atlanta Hawks. Dennis Schroeder wanted to get traded, so the Hawks are in need of a point guard. They went with picking up Trae Young in a trade for Luka Doncic. So let's just say the Hawks flat out drafted Trae Young, which basically did happen. They drafted Trae Young because they traded Dennis Schroeder, even though that came afterwards, but you get the point, right? So it's not anything functional. It's just like changes to make, I guess, people more likely to sit through the entire draft and see why teams did what they did, which I think it's a pretty nice touch, and it makes the game a lot more realistic and a lot more immersive. A new feature in player training is player mentorships, which I love this because this makes veteran players a lot more valuable in the game than ever before. You'll see guys like Joe Johnson like fading out into obscurity. Well, now that may change, and your favorite players on the verge of retirement may have some value still in their career. Player mentorships is a new feature where, for example, LeBron James is going to the Lakers, and he's obviously a very experienced veteran player, to say the least. Brandon Ingram will be trained under LeBron if you choose LeBron to mentor Ingram. And players within their first 4 to 5 years, I believe they said in the notes, are more likely to reach their learning capacity in that time versus afterwards. The veteran players will be able to teach these players certain badges, maybe certain play styles. Slowly you'll see like Brandon Ingram develop into more of a LeBron James kind of player. So let's say one season I'm the Lakers GM, and, well, this is a real world example. I want Lonzo Ball to develop into an amazing playmaker with all the badges and stuff like that. I signed Rondo to a 1-year deal, not necessarily to help my team win, but to help Lonzo Ball improve along. And that's a great feature. I love that because it highlights the importance of veteran players in today's NBA, which veteran players do have a great impact on younger players. Like Stephen Curry has said for years that Jarrett Jack made such a difference in his career early on, and Jarrett Jack was one of his favorite teammates because Jarrett Jack's veteran presence helped Stephen Curry out a lot. I mean, now look at Curry. I mean, Jarrett Jack was no superstar, but I'm sure he had some sort of impact on Stephen Curry's rise. player he is today. Now, an important note, say if you have Joel Embiid mentored by JJ Redick, that won't really impact Joel Embiid as much because they're two completely different players that play two completely different positions. So be aware of that. And CPU teams will also be taking advantage of this system, which means they'll be more actively pursuing veteran players than ever before in relation to their young rookies. A few other smaller features include a complete change of the All-Star Game format, where we'll have Team USA versus like the world teams for the Rising Stars Challenge, and it'll bring in the voting for the All-Star format, like how we had this year with Team Curry and Team LeBron. And on top of that, I'm not sure if you could go back to the old West versus East All-Star format, but that'd be a pretty cool feature if that is in the game, because I'm a big fan of West versus East. I don't care the difference in talent. I'm a little old school in terms of I just don't like stuff like that changing. It's been the same way forever. There's also a player injury history menu, which will show you the complete history and when the dates occurred of every single player's injury. I don't know if that'll include past injuries, like for example, I hate to use him. I don't know if we'll see like all of Derrick Rose's injuries lined up, like his ACL tears, his 3 meniscus tears and stuff like that. Going on, like let's say Derrick Rose gets hurt down the line, which, knock on wood, I hope that doesn't happen. He's my favorite player. You'll see his injuries from the start of your MyLEAGUE or MyGM experience onward. Another small feature is draft pick tracking. You can see where all your draft picks are for any given year. So let's say you traded your first round draft pick for 2020 to the Cavs and you're the Atlanta Hawks and you're worried like, oh, I kind of want that draft pick back because we're tanking now. Then you can say, oh, easily I know where that draft pick is. I traded it to the Cavs, and you may have done this 2 years prior. So now you can get that 2020 draft pick back, possibly, knowing that your team's going to tank, and that just helps out because it sucks tanking and not having the draft picks. Yes, I mean you, Brooklyn Nets. Another huge feature is the choose your own rule feature. In years past, we only got like 5 options, and you're stuck with those 5 options. Either decline them or accept them, or if you're in MyGM, you're kind of stuck. Now, you can choose like whatever rule change you want, so a fully customizable rule change menu in the league, which that is freaking awesome. Also, there's new rule changes. One, which is super cool, is you can do a 1 through 16 playoff seeding, which is awesome. So both conferences will be put together during the playoffs, so you can have the Warriors and the Cavs face off in the first round. Like, that's awesome, because that is a current topic being talked about, an unlikely change in NBA procedure and how the playoffs will work, but one that has definitely brought a lot of talk and opinions from various people around the NBA. Another rule change that's a little more fantasy based is the teams that do not make the playoffs will be then put in a bracket to compete for a lottery pick. And the teams that would make the finals, like let's say the Suns, who are the worst team in the NBA this year, and the Dallas Mavericks met in those finals, however they determine the seeding, the team that wins in that finals gets the first overall pick, and the team that loses gets the second overall pick. And that's a pretty cool rule change if you want to go with that. Very interesting and a great change to the lottery, as there are a lot of lottery rule changes within NBA 2K. Another small change is now you can control who gets what season award. Let's say Giannis wins the MVP, but you're looking at LeBron James. Like, LeBron just averaged a triple-double with 30 points, and Giannis only had 24, 9, and 5. I want the MVP to go to LeBron. So you could change it and give LeBron that MVP. I assume it's the same with every other award, including All-NBA, Rookie of the Year, All-Defensive Team, All-Rookie Team, all that stuff. You have full customization over, which I think that's pretty cool. And now, finally, for, I think, the coolest feature in MyLEAGUE, and it is the historical draft classes. Like, literally, as I was going through this blog and reading it, I freaked when I saw this, because for a lot of reasons, this might actually help like what this game mode I've been trying to do. As some of you guys may know that have followed my channel, I tried doing this thing where I go through every single season. Like, say, I started in 1965, and I actually did the 1965 season video And then I filmed 1966, 1967, and 1968. I had all those seasons played out, manually editing like rosters and going into a season by season MyLEAGUE, which that took a lot of work and it took forever. It was really hard to produce. And eventually I just gave up because I didn't have the time. School and stuff like that, it was so difficult. And I planned on doing it this year where I was going to start off at 1980 and up, kind of like where the NBA rose with Bird and Magic. And then I saw this, and this completely changed that entire idea. 2K literally gifted me with my idea and made it so much easier for me. The draft classes include the 1960 NBA draft class, the 1965 NBA draft class, the 1969 NBA draft class, the 1970 NBA draft class, the 1974 NBA draft class, and the 1976 through 2017 NBA draft classes. Now, I speculate the reason for the 76 through 2017 is because based off like the classic teams, more of the rosters have players from that era, whereas you got like the 1960, 1965, and 1969, 1970, that's more for like the isolated stars on like the 65 Celtics, 65 Lakers, stuff like that. The early 70s teams like the 71 Bucks and Lakers, 72 Lakers, whatever. But that's an awesome feature because now I can literally like do my idea. I can go from literally from 1976 all the way through until 2017, and like this helps me out so much. I assume every available player in the game will be in their draft class. I'm assuming the draft classes won't be complete, as obviously they won't have the rights to every single player, but this is nonetheless still an amazing feature, and I am super excited about this. Like literally, this can the game like come out right now? Like, Ronnie 2K, where's my copy of 2K19? I need to play this mode right now. Thank you everybody for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like on the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Basketball Tip-Off, make sure you give our page a like. And also make sure you go into the settings on our page, and if you want to see all our posts all the time, go and click our posts. If you want to see our posts all the time, go and click the See First option on our page so you can see whenever we post something if you're missing our posts. Thank you guys for watching. This is Jarrett Huff here from Basketball Tip-Off, and any more 2K19 news will be coming straight from me, so be ready for it.
Dude, why is Chris Dunn still out? Jesus.